I believe everybody's returned from coffee. So our next speaker of the morning is past District Governor Carroll Greenwald.
Thanks very much, everyone. This is a time for us in District 5830. We are continuing to do great things, as we just saw through Ted's presentation. And the exciting part is, some years ago when we began to do international work, we were doing a lot through Polio Plus, through Shirley Griffin's efforts, past District Governor Shirley. And we were doing other things. John Jetter had a project, a global grant in Honduras that he led. We then began one in 2016 that Ted alluded to, where we refreshed the NICU equipment in the National Hospital that we're going to talk about here in a few minutes, and lowered the infant mortality rate in that hospital by 60%. And a number of clubs participated in that. And we, through the relationships that we developed there in Guatemala, we continue to do amazing things. So I wanted to show you some of that, to give you a taste of what has occurred this past year that many of you helped with, and then talk about some things that are out in front of us yet to be accomplished. So I'm going to the second slide, and it shows the Tikal beautiful area there, about an hour away from this hospital where we've done some work in the northern part of Guatemala. Do you all see the monument there? It's a temple in the kind of the mist. Are you all seeing that?
Yes, Carol.
Okay, good. All right. This hospital that is the subject of this presentation is the only national hospital in the northern area of Guatemala. Think about our panhandle in Texas. Well, there's a panhandle in Guatemala, and that entire panhandle region, if you look at the geography of the country, is this Patan area. It's called a department. They don't have states, they have departments. 650,000 residents live there, and most are very much impoverished. It's a very low income area with many families struggling on about $1 a day to feed their families. And this lady, Dr. Yvette Marroquin, is one of 3 ophthalmologists, and the only one in this area in Guatemala that serves that huge population of folks. She grew up in and was trained in Belize, and so she is very fluent in English, which helps us tremendously, those of us here in the US that are somewhat challenged with languages. And she and her club of 14 people, 12 of them are women. They are a dynamic, outstanding club that does tremendous things through identifying needs and then helping us who have the means to work with them, as they are the project administrators for us, essentially, in this area. And so last year, about this in June, she came to us through email and said, our national hospital, 125 bed hospital, we're trying to do COVID screening, and all we have is a dilapidated old US surplus Army tent. It's a dirt floor. We're trying to screen all of the people coming and going out of the hospital to prevent bringing the virus, COVID virus, into the hospital. And this is what they had. She said, can you all help? And through your help, we did step up. You responded, and all of these clubs that are listed jumped in, and in short order, about a month to 5 weeks, we raised $15,000 and wired it to them. And within 6 weeks of their getting those funds together, they found an old dilapidated, unused container out at the airport. So using what they had, they moved that container, they cut windows and doors into it, put an air conditioner on the back of it, and a ramp and a seating area under a cover. And for $15,000, what you see is the collaboration between you and this club of 14 amazing individuals, where now they have a first-class triage facility to be able to screen the people coming in and out of the hospital and protect those workers and also the other patients there in the hospital. It's an amazing group of people. Rotary is essentially a family of friends all around the world. And this is a great example of what we could do together with them and what you were doing. And so then they received some funds from the West Coast and the toilet facilities that for all of the visitors to the hospital who essentially are kind of camped out around the hospital, this is what those look like. And then through the year, they worked then to, this is what they were able to accomplish, to refurbish and actually build new restroom facilities that are first rate for all of the visitors of the hospital. They have 2 architects in the club, and then other club members then work together to make sure that the money is spent and that there's transparency. And again, that they use what they have and then are able to work hard to accomplish great things. So through your help, not only the triage facility, but then these restroom facilities came into being. So this is some of the members of their club. They're very active. She came to our 100th plus one celebration and enjoyed telling us the story of other critical needs that they are encountering and that they have need for. And a number of those were shared with us. She came to the Marshall Club, came to the Grayton Club, and came to the Longview Club, and then spoke at the 100th plus one celebration. And here are some of the things that she shared with us. This is her working to screen a tiny little infant. She screens the infants that are born in the hospital for, it's really a condition where additional tissues can grow and cover the retina of a tiny little baby, especially preemies. And through her work, through this, looking through this ophthalmoscope, she was able to identify 9 little babies who otherwise were going to be blind. She was able to send those babies to Guatemala City, where they did laser surgeries and were then helped these children not to be blinded. So 9 little infants, she personally screened and helped to make sure that they were going to be able to be sighted through the rest of their lives. You can see that this ophthalmoscope it's an old one. You see, I don't know if you can see the white that's trying on its last legs. And she said, I really need this for my ongoing work with not only adults, but also children. And we had a family that stepped up and said, we'll do that project. And they were Rotarians and they heard the story and they say, we'll do that. So that is project's already funded and that money's already been sent to buy her a new ophthalmoscope to help her in her work. She also identified that in their COVID ward, they only had 3 oxygen bottles down there, so they could serve only 3 patients at a time. The regulators were one-on-one, 1 for each bottle. And yet their needs were tremendous. They were treating up to 100 patients a day and were pretty much overrun, and 30% of those patients needed oxygen. So she said, if we could just get $650 to essentially buy splitters, to split each of those oxygen bottles 6 ways, they could serve 18 or more patients a day. And that project, family of Rotarians stepped up and said, we'll do that. So that money's already been collected and sent and electronically sent to them. She also said that they had a burn unit, and when the children come out of surgery from being burned terribly, they need to be moved around, and they only had 1 wheelchair that looked like this in that ward, and that they really needed 5 of them because of the number of the little ones that had been burned by either cooking fires in their homes, in the little 1-room shacks and things that where they lived, or other means. These children were terribly burned, and they had to pick them up and carry them from place to place here in this hospital ward. She said, could we have 5 wheelchairs, and we can buy them cheaply in the country for $825. And so another Rotarian and her husband stepped up and said, we'll do that. So that money has already been collected and sent since late August when Dr. Marquin was with us. She also said that there are patients that leave the hospital that have need for mobility devices, and they're impoverished and they have nothing, and we really don't have much in the way to give them. But what they envisioned, the club, was that if they had five working wheelchairs and a couple of pairs of crutches and walkers for about $1,000, they could loan those out to these impoverished people until they healed up, then bring them back through Rotarians' help back to the hospital. Possibly the folks could contribute a few quetzales. There's 7 quetzals per dollar. So they might be able to give a few quetzals in response to having received these. And that project has been funded and that money wired already to Dr. Marquin. And then lastly, she told us that just before she came that the water supply to the hospital is through wells, a series of wells, and then the pumps pump the water up to a water tower that's depicted here, and then it comes to the hospital. Sadly, those wells have been compromised with bacteria, and that water is unfit for drinking and has been with fecal coliforms and other things that have migrated into that water, the well water. It's having to be boiled. Again, think of 125 beds and that many patients, surgeries, births, other things. The water is unfit for use, and so they're having to boil it by the many gallons per day, and then give folks water bottles for drinking, which is a tremendous load and tremendous additional burden on the hospital there. And upon hearing of this need, what they needed, it was a chlorinator, much like you put on the swimming pool, where you chlorinate the water, you then sample the water continuously, and you add or you change the chlorination rate to meet the needs to make sure that disinfecting is happening. And so that's what they needed for about $4,000, had it already scoped and ready to go. And we had another Rotarian family step up and say, we'll do that. And so that money has already been collected and sent. So I just wanted to give you an idea of where we are and the things that have been brought to us even very recently, and through very generous Rotarians' responses, those projects are underway. So again, isn't Rotary an amazing organization, as Floyd mentioned, where we can do much more together than we ever could do individually? But now I want you to buckle your seatbelts, because I want to show you something that's coming that each of us, I'd like for clubs across the district to think about as clubs and also as individuals. So this hospital is a referral hospital. And it's really, many of the births are done in the villages with midwives. Again, we trained through the global grant some years ago, 192 midwives, gave them training, gave them supplies, and are continuing with that through an NGO. But the difficult births, the difficult ones have to come to the hospital. And because of COVID, many of the mothers were infected with COVID. And in the outbuildings around the hospital, they had to add facilities for those mothers to be able to birth their babies, but not to spread COVID to all of the rest of the population in the hospital. But think about that, 50 births per day total. You know, the very large hospitals in our cities in Dallas and Fort Worth don't have, but maybe on a busy day, 15 to 20 births per day. And so this hospital is just, again, almost overwhelmed. And the maternity area is pretty difficult. I've walked through it. It's just a series of rooms with open windows. The mothers are there in terrific heat and trying to fan their little babies with, whatever they can get to fan them and try to cool them. The problem is the little baby systems can't adapt to those kind of temperatures. And so they are spiking fevers, if you think about 115 apparent degrees temperature-wise because of the high humidity, they can't adjust to that. And so they worry about brain damage with high fevers that result from those kind of high ambient conditions. And then in addition to that, of course, air conditioning would solve that. Simple ductless air conditioners like you experience in motels and hotels the single units per room. And about 4 of those air conditioners would air condition the space for these mothers and babies. The restrooms and shower facilities, I'll show you, are very old and dilapidated, refurbishing. And then there's a rooftop area outside immediately adjacent. It could be used for just the mothers to get out under an awning and with some chairs and get a breath of fresh air. So let me show you some pictures, because pictures just depict far better than I can with my words. You can see that these thin curtains are knotted. They're knotted because they're trying to get every little breath of air into those rooms that they can. Again, this is very hot conditions and high humidity. That she tells us that our East Texas air felt dry to her. And this was on an August day with high humidity where we were just dripping, thinking and complaining of our humidities, but it's worse there. And so here are the mothers and some of the maternity ward areas. Here's some additional rooms, and they're really packed. These were taken before the COVID time, and before some of the real crush of births coming to the hospital. And again, you see that their facilities are very limited. Here, some floors, the nurses say that they can't really sanitize those floors very well because of the tile is broken and gone. And then how would you like to take a shower in a facility that looked like that, or have restroom facilities that were like that? That's what these mothers are encountering. And there's no money through the national hospital system to fix it. Here's the roof area that could be covered. Think of a sheet iron or some kind of an awning and plastic chairs underneath it. It'd be perfect for helping the mothers there. So we talked with the TCAL Club and with the architects. They've taken a look at all of what we just have talked about. And the hospital administration has signed on and said if funding could be received, that they agree with some of the proposals. It's a $30,700 project to add the air conditioners that we talked about, to do the flooring, the patching and painting, better lighting, showers, restrooms, and the shade covering over the roof area. And the beauty of all this is, if I can do it there, all of this would be supervised by the 2 architects and then other club members, as we've done in other projects in the past. Our monies have been very well administered and very well reported, with receipts and costs and things that tangible track record for where the money has been spent. And so we can see for not only global grants, the requirement for that, but also for grants or projects like this. We can see that, again, those who fund the project can feel very good about what we see. And so here's where we are. Our Rotary Club of Longview, as a spearhead kind of group that's worked very closely with Dr. Marquin there, we've approved moving forward with the project. See if I can get my wheel to work here. Sorry. There. We've approved $15,000 for the project. A fair amount of that is our club project grant from contributions to the foundation 3 years ago. And then, of course, we're more than matching that to get to the $15,000 level. Other clubs have already signed on, and we are very grateful. Henderson, Carthage, and Marshall have already sent money that their boards approved. And so we're right now at $17,500 that's been raised for the project. So that's only $14,200 away. As Ted mentioned, if each does a little, each club does a little, it's amazing when you add those monies up, how they grow. And so we do need other generous clubs to join in. And we, at the break, several commented that they're interested and are planning to participate. And I want to thank you in advance for each of you who are thinking about this with your clubs. I would certainly love to talk with you either by email or by phone. And then if individuals want to join, we certainly can do that with tax deductible 501c3 kinds of accounts through which these funds are collected and then wired to Guatemala. And so if you would like a presentation to be made, this is the lake around which this hospital sits in San Benito. The lake has a tourist area in the center of it called Flores. It is a gorgeous place. And these are very well-deserving people and very, again, impoverished people who have very little. But then hardworking Rotarians, a small but incredibly active club, who over the years we have seen great success in supporting them and them identifying other needs that then we can jump on and help them to accomplish. It's a great part of Rotary and being a part of Rotary together. Our foundation dollars coming back to us in these club project grants and things allow us to do things not only locally, but also internationally. And so this is the end of my presentation. If you would like to talk further, I'm certainly able to do so. We can do it through this email or through my cell phone number, or if you'd like, again, for me to come and participate by presenting some of these slides to your club, we certainly can do that. Any questions?